It's a right hand lead by Maidana that sticks. Another right hand. Stroller goes down for the first time in his career.
More than 2 minutes to go in this round. Anthony Joshua is a composed and ferocious finisher. Watch this.
21 knockouts in 21 wins for Anthony Joshua. The chance with the right hand. Ruiz is staggered and an uppercut, trying to hold on. Strafing right. Ruiz comes to fire back, and Joshua's hurt. Oh, Joshua goes down. Andy Ruiz caught him with a sharp left hook. Joshua's hurt.
To evade.
Down goes Young on a thunderous left hook.
And that is the vaulting power that we're talking about. Nonito Donaire at this weight class, 118 pounds. Everybody better watch out.
Who the fuck is he talking about?
Oh, great shot from Fury. Terrific right hand. Oh, and down he goes. Right hand, left hand. And I don't think he's going to get up. I think it's all over. I think it's over. Is he going to get up? Can he get up? Can he get up? He does. Oh my goodness. Somehow Fury has managed to get up.
Contract's been signed for February 22nd. Agree, or you will have a lawsuit on your head. You little maggot!
Another 1-2.
Look at Mayorga. Fight's on. Let me tell you, Mayorga, this gets Mayorga into it. He just let him hit him a left hand. Look at him.
Right hand. And look at Mayorga.
Oh, wait a minute. Wow, their hip presses so hard. They are feeling it in Brazil. Mamma mia. What a KO.
He clearly landed more power shots. And if Triple G didn't have the chin of God, he would have been knocked the fuck out.
I tell you what, he could have knocked out a racehorse with that left hook.
Right hand up one, and he has to come behind the jab, you know, to get close.
Oh! One punch knockdown. What a shot by the young star. This fight is over.
Fantastic fitness levels here from Lewis Whitson here in his last round. Bowman, firing shot. That's it. 15-12 punch combination from Buckland Davies.
Terrific action in the last round, just like there was in the first three.
I feel like you just fucking me with no Vaseline.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up, MCR Family Low Morning Show for you guys. I know it's a little bit later than what I wanted. I usually want like a 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time morning show. That's what I'm going to go for. One or two of these a week is what I'm going to shoot for. This one's a little bit late because I was out late last night. Apologies. But we're going to be here for as long as you guys are here, dropping questions and topics in the live chat. As long as we have questions and topics, either on our questions and topics post on our community tab, on our YouTube page, or on the YouTube link I posted on Twitter. Post a question under that as well. I'll get to all these questions and topics that you guys have, the listeners, today. And it should be a fun one because the last one was a lot of fun, I'll be honest. I really enjoyed the last show. Really good interaction with you guys in the chat. But man, it should be a fun show today because there's a few topics out there that that we can talk about. There's a couple questions that you guys already posed that I'm really interested to dissect. And plus, I mean, everyone's talking about the award-winning actress that was talking about boxing on Matt Troom's Twitter account, and that anytime you get mainstream celebrities like that to talk about boxing, even though it's YouTubing boxing, it's fantastic, right, guys? For those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's the Riley Reid Twitter poster. Should I find that? I should just get that. Hold on. It's a morning show. I'm going to find that shit right now because why not? It's worth it to start the show off with that high note, right, guys? I see PSK, I see your questions. Thank you for writing out question in all caps too, PSK. Really makes it easier for me to see. Let me find, where is that epic video that's making the rounds? Where is it? I cannot find. Here it is. Okay, guys. Oh, hold on there. Award-winning actress that we have. Let's get her thoughts on the upcoming super fight here. I'm so glad we're starting the show off this way. If those out there that do not know who Riley Reid is, feel free to look her up. on Google. Just not safe for work or family. Just want to let everyone be fully aware of that.
I mean, I love listening to Jake Paul. He's so funny. So I came here for a little bit of the comedy sense or whatever. But I think it's great. I think that Jake is going to fucking
Have you watched much of boxing before? Did you watch Logan's fight back in LA?
I did watch Logan's fight, and I've watched a little bit of like UFC type stuff, but I don't typically watch much fighting, so I don't really know like the rules or anything like that. So to me, it looked like Logan won, but I mean, I don't know how the. Yeah.
But I guess that it's obviously you're getting into boxing. Is that kind of because of the Pauls fighting? You're quite close to me. You're kind of taking like more of an interest in boxing because of those guys.
Yeah, they like got me into it more. So I have some friends who watch.
Yeah. So that's been making the rounds. Oh man, I just look. I don't care for like shaming porn stars because I mean, God bless them. Like we need them in our society. But it's just funny. I mean, boxing Twitter is definitely taking this one to task with the terminology of just actress, and that's it. And Heath in the chat's and now I'm remembering who this is. I bet you do. Oh god, it's gonna be a good one. But anyways, hold on, there's some good. Rob in the chat. You can't find her quote movies on a lot of websites. Art Alexander coming in with the slam dunk off the alley oop. She's more into short films. You guys are just on point today. But let's get to some of the questions and topics you guys already put in the chat. Let me see. Where's the first one? Scott Brown. God, Scott. Me and you disagree sometimes, but man, you want me to rant. I can tell. You're one of those listeners that wants me to rant about shit. Saying Shields versus Megan Anderson, or would UFC go straight for Claressa Shields versus Amanda Nunes? Obviously talking about Claressa Shields making the move to MMA and predominantly probably the UFC, though PFL offers, the lightweight division, which is 155 pounds in MMA, or Bellator, which offers, Chris Cyborg at 145 pounds. There are other options out there for her in the MMA sphere for women's MMA. But predominantly what's been talked about is going to the UFC. Megan Anderson's a top 10 level fighter, let's say, in the women's featherweight division, which is 145 pounds. It would make sense. She's predominantly a striker, so you're dealing with someone that most likely won't be able to grapple and or really, press that side of the game. But her last win was a submission that was quite impressive and notable in terms of her growth, in terms of ability. So it would still be a tough fight for Claressa Shields. I would say no matter what, don't do this. I would say no matter what, Claressa Shields, don't go to MMA, please. Please don't. Please do not. We need you in boxing more than they need you in MMA. I know that's very selfish of me to say, but we need you in this sport. We need you to propel women's boxing more and more. And going over to MMA, I think, would send a very bad sign to women's boxing as a whole in terms of its viability. And maybe there's truth to that, but you don't get past that by leaving. You don't get past that by quitting, so to speak. You get past this sort of issue in women's boxing, the lack of depth, the lack of industry push, by pushing past those barriers and pushing past those glass ceilings. And Claressa Shields is one of the women that could do that, along with Katie Taylor. And definitely, I think our women that I just mentioned, Katie Taylor and Claressa Shields, are inspiring the next generation of women to come up. And if those next generations see that these women maybe don't really have the faith in the sport of boxing anymore, what does that say about us as a community, as an industry, that that our top women's athletes are thinking about or wanting to leave the sport? I think that's a really bad sign in terms of our viability as an industry. Let's be honest here. We can make fun of like the WNBA all we want, but that is still an industry that makes money, that year after year after year is running and still working. Still has depth to it. Still has great college athletes that go into it. There's still talent there. There's still an industry push for it too, Even if there's jokes about it, it survives. It's successful. Women's boxing doesn't have anywhere near that push or support. It just doesn't. Scott Brown saying women's MMA is way more popular. It is. No. There's no dispute about that, Scott. What I'm saying is, don't give up on women's boxing, Shields. Like, don't give up on it because we need women like you to push the sport forward. That's what I would say. Pat and Beantown saying Gary out here with boots on the ground. Shout out for option. You found Gary? Oh man, that's the honestly one of the best things about going to events is like meeting some of you guys. Like that is. It makes what we do here on this show seem a lot more real at times when I go out to events and, someone say, hey, Matt, Mixed Combat Radio, or, occasionally, name redacted. And, it's always, hilarious to, have that conversation. Rob is hanging around Tanahara. WNBA doesn't make money. The NBA funds it, bro. Quit capping. But that's my point. The industry supports the WNBA to keep it viable. They push it. They support it. Boxing doesn't do that for women's boxing. MMA does that for women's MMA. There is massive structural support for women's MMA. For example, Invicta FC is a women's only MMA promotion, SSB. It is basically owned and operated by the UFC. You can only watch it on the UFC Fight Pass streams. Only the UFC's streaming service. So that's a great parallel to the WNBA, where I understand that it doesn't have the depth to the regular NBA, but that's because there's not really 6'11", 7-foot women running around that are athletes. It's just not really as common. But also, they get the support to stay viable, to stay successful, a la women's MMA. Women's boxing doesn't get that. Let's just be honest about that. Art Alexander saying women's boxing has a way higher ceiling than what is happening right now. I agree with that because you look at women's MMA. That's combat sports. It's a great parallel to women's boxing. It shows the disparity of industry push, industry support, the disparity in depth and talent. And if you look at women's MMA, it's a prime example of what happens when the major corporation that sets the market tone, a la the UFC, which has a monopoly power over the market, when they took on women's divisions, boom, it exploded. When they bought out, so to speak, Invicta FC, boom, it exploded in terms of depth. They brought in more divisions. I mean, things moved rapidly in terms of growth and development for women's MMA. Imagine if Matchroom, if PBC and Top Rank and Golden Boy, and on top of that, the networks more so than anything, ESPN, Fox, Showtime, DAZN, said, you know what, we're going to push women's boxing. That's going to be a major priority for us in 2020, and 2021, 2022, is to push women's boxing, to make it a viable business model, a viable sport going forward. And there are absolutely ways to do that. And it takes money. It takes investment. It takes $1 to make $1. That's just how it works. So, and our Alexander would bring up a good point. Can we just let them have the same time around as men? Absolutely. Holy shit. That's just so disrespectful to women. But moving on, let's go to the next question. I think I tackled that one at all the angles I want to. What's the next one in the chat? Question from PSK. Thoughts on Billy Joe Saunders leaving Ingle again to be trained by Davison again? Is that new? I thought, did we talk about that before? I don't know if we talked about that, but digressing back to it. I don't have any major concerns about it. I have concerns with Billy Joe Saunders as a person. You know what I mean? Like, he seems like a very inconsistent person in terms of training, in terms of work ethic, and regardless of who he's training with, that is an issue in my mind. Whether it's Ingle, whether it's Davison, I don't see him as being a dedicated person to the sport overall. So I I tend to not really put too much stock into that. Almost in the same way as like Tyson Fury. Like Tyson Fury is so erratic in his behavior and so inconsistent in his behavior. Switching from Ben Davison, while alarming to a degree, it's just another inconsistent, erratic behavior from an inconsistent, erratic person. And that in of itself is just a bad sign of probably a personal trait for these guys. Because I think to be at the top level for a very long, sustained time, which obviously Tyson Fury doesn't want to do, but bring it back to Billy Joe Saunders, which I would assume he wants to do. You know, he wants to be a champion for a long time. He wants to have a legacy. You can't be inconsistent. You know, the top athletes of all time across any sport have been consistent more than anything. You know, that work ethic is something that gets them past a lot of other talented players, fighters, athletes, whatever it may be. Moving on, though. PSK, another question. Thoughts on Gallagher saying he and Reyes are shook on Canelo versus Smith? Yeah, I saw that. Gallagher is one of those guys, like, he is like, he's the UK Freddie Roach. Well, he's like a quasi promoter and hype man. Like, he talks a lot for a trainer. Now, that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that he talks a lot. So when you have a person that talks a lot to the media, and they may have one side of the story, and they may have a very agenda-biased side of the story because they have a fighter that they want to make money off of, and etc. I tend to take their statements with a grain of salt, so to speak, to be honest. Like, I'd rather listen to managers more than trainers, for example, especially since managers more so know the business side of it. But Gallagher is a quasi-manager at times, too, it seems. Seems to be very involved in the negotiation process of all of his fighters. So it's not impossible that he's right about that. I just tend to go, all right, I want to see a little more reporting on that because Canelo's talking about another guy a lot more than your guy right now, it seems. And that might be an issue for Callum Smith, if I'm being honest. What else do we have here? Art Alexanderson, a question. What is the undercard so far for Garcia Vargas? Well, I'll look that up for you right now. Mikey Garcia. Great radar right here. But hey, see you guys' questions and topics. I want to make sure I get it absolutely right here. Obviously, we have Mike Garcia versus Jesse Vargas. We have Julio Cesar Martinez versus Jay Harris, and which is a good fight. Really recommend if you're going to go to the card, if you're thinking about going to the card, that's a really good fight. That might be worth it just alone. And Joseph Parker versus TBA is all that is on BoxRec so far. Let me go to ESPN's schedule because sometimes they have the unofficial fights on. What's the date? February, right? February 29th. We will have... They just have the two fights. They don't even have Joseph Parker on ESPN. So nothing really set in stone so far for that undercard, it seems. But not so surprising. It's going to take probably another week or so for that undercard to get fully fleshed out. I would assume some prospects, the Emma Williams, the Diego Pacheco, all those guys I would expect to be on the undercard because it's a match from card. And plus the lion's share of the profit, or it's not the profit, the cost of that event is in the main event. I mean, that's probably, a $10 million payout for the main event with those two guys, at least, combined. So combined payout. So it's a lot of money. I don't expect the undercard to be extremely stacked. I expect the Martinez Jay Harris fight to probably be the best one, and a Joseph Parker fight versus a top 50 competitor is probably realistic if we're being honest. Moving on, what do we have here? Ryan Hong in the chat saying, who you got, Jesse Hart versus Joe Smith Jr.? Obviously, I forget what show we reviewed that on, or previewed that, I should say. But definitely go check out, which show is it? Let me see. It should probably, I think, be the Monday show or the Sunday show. One of those shows, I think we previewed it. No, I think it was the show with Rob. So the Spence Crawford Pick Up Your Phone show, I think that's the one where we broke down the card at the end of the show. So if you want to check it. Just go to the end of the show, the last 30 minutes or so. But I think Joe Smith Jr. should win. Jesse Hart is a guy that doesn't really strategize for fights, and that's an issue when he needs to have a strategy and execute that strategy to its fullest effect against Joe Smith Jr., in my opinion. But really good fight. Probably the best fight of the weekend, if we're being honest. Most competitive fight, at least. What else do we have? Hassan, do you think NBC or CBS may look to add boxing in the future to compete with Fox? NBC, no. I mean, they were trying to get that main events deal with Kathy Duva, and then Kovalev just kept losing, right? So that, and plus they got rid of, it was originally World Series of Fighting, I want to say, and then it became PFL, and then it's MMA promotion. That moved to ESPN2. So I don't see NBC getting involved in combat sports in any significant way. CBS is a maybe, but ever since, was it Les Moonves was taken down in the Me Too movement, and he was probably the biggest boxing proponent that was an executive at CBS, it has been apparent that boxing is no longer a priority at CBS. Just apparent. So I think Fox is it's going to be a battle between Fox and ESPN in terms of the boxing market, with DAZN playing catch up and doing decent, but especially with the likes of Canelo and AJ, but playing catch up with all her other content. I mean, Gary put it extremely well. We were talking about the DAZN numbers on yesterday's show about their hours of consumption and how boxing was number 5 on their list in terms of hours of consumption to a significant degree, a significant drop off from the top 4, and yet having 4 events in the top 10 streaming events for DAZN of last year. How's that possible? And Gary put it, I think, perfectly. Those top 4 events got all those hours of consumption. Everything else did not. Everything else was a bottom level, hardcore fan. We're talking Crawford Postal numbers to a very small degree here, maybe even smaller to some of these Andrade and Farmer cards, Golden Boy cards, for example, that a lot of the boxing fan base is probably just illegally streaming it. And therefore, boxing's not really being consumed by a wide audience. And therefore, probably still placing that third placement behind ESPN and Fox in terms of boxing exposure in the U.S. market. Let's go to one of your questions in the community post on YouTube. I think it was Dwayne. Drop some more in the chat, guys. Okay, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. International callers call in on Skype. Mixed Combat Radio. Come on, Blog Talk is definitely having some issues. So Skype Mixed Combat Radio, guys. Especially. There we go. Blog Talk's up. Again, 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. Numbers right there below on the screen. Dwayne's question was, I just realized that Jaime Munguia is fighting this weekend against Spike O'Sullivan. Question for the show, how long until Munguia takes a loss at 160? I don't think Munguia is complete trash, but the guy does block punches with his face, though. I think Munguia probably loses to that top, 10 range of guys for sure. Even guys like, Murata, Brandt, I think they easily beat Munguia, if we're being quite honest here. He could beat the Hugo Centenos of the world, Emmanuel Leams of the world, maybe even this might be controversial to a degree, but maybe a Chris Eubank. He might be able to beat that level of opponent. But Matt Korobov and above, it's going to be rough for him probably in the middleweight division. And I think Golden Boy is going to shelter him as much as possible. He's fighting a blown up 154-pounder that we last really saw getting knocked out against another middleweight that brought him up from junior middleweight. So it just makes no sense. If Munguia's long-term viability as a middleweight is very small. Very small. I highly doubt we're going to be talking about him as a elite player in the next 5 to 10 years. I highly doubt that, even with his age. He has to improve drastically. And plus, the things that he used and utilized to really gain an advantage and for most of his career was his size and his power. And I think clearly in the last few fights that hasn't been effective. And now he's moving up in weight against guys that are bigger and hit harder. Like a guy like Jamal Charlo would just destroy Jaime Munguia. I mean, they would just meet in the center, exchange on the inside, and Munguia would just get destroyed. I mean, it wouldn't be close, in my opinion. A guy like Andrade would outbox him easily. I mean, you're talking about 120 to 109, something like that scorecard. You're talking about a pure domination. You know, he might have some success with Triple G, but that's because Triple G is just getting older. Jaime Munguia is one of those guys I'm highly questionable of. PSK saying, question, what do you think the conflict of interest is in reference to what Taylor said to allow him to leave Cyclone? Something to do with trainer payments, with promoter training, being father-son. Maybe. I mean, maybe it could be that. I don't know. I mean, that's such a vague accusation to throw out, you know? I don't know, to be honest. Who knows? Who knows with Josh Taylor? I think regardless, your Cyclone's not going to really deal with it, and he's not going to be a Cyclone guy at all, and it's already set in stone. He's top rank. Like, sorry, Cyclone, it's done for you. Scott Brown, prospect battle of the guys who say they can't get big fights. I like this. Jared Enos Boots versus Ortiz Jr. Who you got? If Gary's listening right now. That's a tough one. I like Ortiz Jr. a little bit more. That may be due to the fact that he's faced more notable opponents than Enos, so to speak. He just has, to be honest. But Enos looks really good. I mean, if you talk about welterweight prospects, you're talking about guys like Rashidi Ellis, Ortiz Jr., Enos, even guys like Josh Kelly to a degree. They're all really talented. They're all really skilled. I kind of want them all to face established guys, though, to be honest. Even though I'm okay with them fighting each other, I'm okay with prospects fighting each other, I would love to see Ortiz fight a Lipinets or a Josito Lopez. Same with Enos. I would love to see him fight some of those guys, to be honest. PSK saying, question, dream fight for 2020, what would it be? Dream fight for 2020. I mean, there's a lot of great fights, obviously. I mean, like AJ Wilder. I mean, the cliche ones, right? Get those out of the way. Like AJ Wilder, Crawford Spence. What else would we have there? That's like the cliche ones. Better be Bivol, right? Triple G, Canelo 3, Canelo Charlo, Canelo Cal Smith. I do kind of really like that fight. Canelo better be. That'd be fucking awesome. AJ Usyk, you know. I mean, these are all fights I really like. Gary Russell Jr. versus Josh Warrington. Miguel Berchelt versus Gervonta Davis. Yes, you know you want it. Loma versus Gervonta Davis. I mean, if we're talking about dream fights, right? Fuck yeah. Inoue versus Rungvisai. Tell me, or Estrada. You know, any of the guys he just ducked at 115. Yeah, I said it.
I want smoke.
Just kidding, guys. I'm kidding. Inoue fanboys. I'm kidding. Relax. No, I'm not kidding. God, who else? Oh, Menno Thane versus Knockout CP Freshmart. How the fuck has that fight not happened yet at 105? How? Those guys are undefeated. Been fighting, I'm going to say nobodies. They've been fighting good opponents for the last, 5 years. But holy shit, fight each other for fuck's sake, please. Tanaka versus Martinez. Oh, yes. That might be mine. That might be my dream fight of 2020. Rob said, Matt basically says Lopez loses to Loma. But I mean, Rob, if we're being honest here, Rob, I know you're just listening and you're not talking to me, but if we're being honest here, I'm talking to you right now. Imagine Loma Lopez isn't made, right? Who would you want to see Loma fight next? Dream fight. It would be more Gervonta Davis right before Lopez. I would rather see that fight. It's been talked about for so long. It would probably be a far bigger fight than obviously Lopez. It would be. That's not even a question. It would be a far more massive fight. Honestly, you can even make the argument it is a pay-per-view fight. Like, you can make that argument. But regardless, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Scott Brown, Beterbiev versus Canelo. I mean, it would be a fun fight. I mean, tell me that wouldn't be fantastic. Rob saying Charlo Madrimov. Is that your dream fight? Really? Really? That's your dream fight? All right. I mean, whatever floats your boat, I guess. Deontay Wilder, Dylan White. Right, guys? I mean, come on here. Come on. Get you UK fans riled up. Come on. Wouldn't that be a great fight? What else is out there? You know, there's some fights that are the fight, right? But fights that I like obviously like Wilder White. It's not AJ Wilder, but it's a fight that I would really love to see. Pacquiao Crawford. I would still love to see that fight. And the fact that we're probably never going to get that fight is just so fucking depressing. So sad. So sad. What else do we have here? PSK saying, who does Gary love more, Tanahar or Barrios? Tanahar for sure. But he likes probably Figueroa and Ortiz more than both of them, for being honest here. Right? Right, I feel like that's not really a hot take there. What else do we have? Any more questions? Or we have one more question from Heath that he tweeted to me. Let me find it. There we go. Heath with the great question. I like this one. Any thoughts on what the boxing community as a whole can work on to make the sport better from the ground up? Or do you think that we're pretty much stuck with what we've got in terms of media, promotions, sanctioning bodies, etc., and just have to live with the trickle down? I love this question. A, because it lets me philosophize about all the issues in boxing and how we can fix it, because I've been doing this for so long. My first big ever, news thing that I broke, but not really news thing that I broke, but just topic that I addressed in this media sphere when I came onto it was fighter unionization. That was one of the first things I touched on when I entered the sport, in terms of a media perspective, right? The very first interview, very first video you can find on this YouTube channel is an interview I did with Lucas Middlebrook. I implore any of you to go back and watch it. First off, just to see how much I have come from then, to be honest, in terms of skill and ability. But digress from that, just in terms of it's still really great information to understand about how to get to a unionized sport. But the very first video I ever did was interviewing Lucas Middlebrook, who was one of the heads of the Professional Fighters League. No. What was it called? It's no longer in effect anymore, I want to say. I think he's now aligned with Project Spearhead with Leslie Smith and that group. But he's been a proponent for unionization for a long time. He's been, I think, a sitting member of a lot of union boards for big level sports like MLS and NBA, I want to say. But digressing, I interviewed him talking about this issue about unionizing the sport when I was with Name Redacted TBV. One of my first ever articles I did with them, because before I ever was on the podcast with them, I was an editor and a writer, was I interviewed some PBC fighters at the time. Later, some of them later. At the time, some of them were champions. Some of them were prospects, and they flipped. Now the prospects are champions or not. But digressing, about unionization. And I mean, you can probably still find it on TBV if you like search my name on like the author page. You can probably find it, and it's a good piece. I implore any of you guys to go back and read that one as well, even though it's with the name redacted. So I've been thinking about how to fix this sport for a very long time, from the very beginning of my tenure in my career, so to speak, in this sphere. And I think you guys know I think about it from all different perspectives. How do we fix promotions? How do we fix sanctioning bodies? How do we fix the regulatory side of it when it comes to commissions? When it comes to collection agencies and PD regulation? How do we fix this sport? And look, the answer is that there are absolutely tons of ways, multiple ways to fix all these issues. There are. The problem is that there's no short way to get to those solutions. I mean, I always use this example. The NBA union for their athletes was established, I forget what year, let's say the 1960s, maybe 1950s. I forget exactly. But it took them exactly, I want to say, 10 years to get recognized by the National Labor Relations Board and the NBA. It took them 10 years from when they started the union to actually getting recognized as an official entity and body. 10 years. And that's in the NBA. Okay, now we're talking about boxing, where we're talking about a splintered and fragmented system that is, I mean, more complicated than any other sport on the planet. It just is. So the way to manufacture change in this sport is harder, more complex, and takes longer than the stick and ball sports. It just does. So whatever time span you see in the stick and ball major sports for, recognizing unions, double, triple, quadruple that for boxing. It's just going to take very long. It's going to take maybe a cross-generational movement to really fix this industry. And, the ways to fix that is, A, you have to get some sort of government oversight, more than what the Muhammad Ali Act is, more than what the Professional Boxing Safety Act of 1996 is, because clearly there are issues in this sport. 2, you have to get based off of that federal legislation in the U.S., and maybe this is more of a U.S.-centric perspective. UK actually has a pretty a better off system because it's more uniformed than the U.S. So I'm talking probably predominantly the U.S.-centric perspective here. You need the ABC, which is the American Boxing Commissions, to actually have some bite to its bark and actually have some effect and be a federal body that does oversee every state commission. And every state has to have a commission. That's probably another thing that needs to happen because some states don't. C, I mean, when we're talking about promoters and how to make them better, it's public pressure, it's consumer backlash, it's things like that, and that takes time. That takes time to curve bad business practices, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it takes a very quick, sudden box office bomb to change the course of a company. That's not impossible. So you're talking about change that is very infrequent, very inconsistent here as well. And promoters are entities and corporations, promotions that have been the most oppressive body in the sport. So you're going to have to curve them the most. Networks, you really can't, stop what networks are doing in terms of improving them. I think networks are pretty fine in what they're doing. I think trickle down, so to speak, I don't like using that term, but networks being more invested in terms of shoulder programming, boxing, whatever it may be, overall events, that, and putting more money into it, that happens when the product is better, when the fan base is more galvanized, and that does happen. So I think if those two things are fixed. Now, in terms of improving the media, that's a tricky one because I think the issues in boxing media are not boxing centric. The issues in boxing media are 100% the issues of media right now. The corporatization of media makes it so profit margins are often more of a focus than journalism, just being honest. Look at what's happened to Collider.com, for example, in terms of creative, artistic, journalistic integrity versus profit margins and business mentality. They cut most of their staff in the last week or two, cut most of their programming. It happens. Two, in terms of media, the need for access is so high in this game because if you don't have access, you don't get content. Just being honest. And the way boxing is set up, and maybe this is make a little key difference from other sports and other stuff, that boxing doesn't really have set standardized practices for press conferences, for media events. I mean, every promotion, every network, everything, every event's different, and how it's run, what's offered to you, opportunities offered to you, access offered to you. So that needs to be standardized to some degree. How that happens is just by media push, if I'm being honest. Like the media has to come in and say, look, this is how it should be ran to a degree. And we have to probably push the PR reps a little bit more, which we don't. You see a lot more in MMA, media pushback on PR reps than in boxing, just being honest. What else do you want to fix? And another thing overall, in terms of I wanted to address it, it's not really in your question, but I want to address it. The fandom. I think the fandom in boxing has massive issues. You know, to use the hot topic word of 2019, it's a very toxic place. It is. You know, it's a place where people will get out there and say, my favorite fighter is Floyd Mayweather, but I hate Clarissa Shields. She's a shit person. When that makes no sense. You know? So, or, well, I mean, the Conor McGregor fans and who they don't like and do like. You know, the whole Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman scenario. I mean, it's a very toxic environment with toxic fucking people. Okay? How does that change? Time. Societal changes over time. Like, you're already seeing it to a degree. But that just takes time. Scott Brown saying you can't write guys off if they lose to good competition. Loma Canelo lost and our top pound for pound still. Agreed. I think that's already I think that mentality is largely overblown, to be honest, nowadays. Boxing needs to stop marinating big fights. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. The matchmaking needs to improve drastically. And that just goes with, I think, more standardized practices in terms of sanctioning bodies, in terms of commissions. You need more of a structural system to get fights made. And the way they're made now is very disorganized, and that needs to be fixed. Question from PSK. Do you think fight fans and media are regretting history by being too in love with Wilder's power like they were with Tyson and Foreman? I don't understand where this is coming from, PSK, because first off, I mean, whatever we want to say about Tyson, he's still, top 30 heavyweight of all time, probably. Foreman's definitely a great heavyweight of all time. So I don't think that's like those are really big concerns or not concerns or bad comparisons even, to be honest. But no, I don't think that at all. I also don't think it's an issue. Like, so, yeah, we're in love with heavyweights and power. Like, okay, is that a bad thing? No. I mean, heavyweights with massive power usually are quite successful, I would say, PSK. I would often say heavyweights with power are more successful than heavyweights without power, right? So that's I don't really see it being an issue or a concern, really. PSK saying in terms of one hit and it's over mantra, that there are ways to beat a fighter. I think people understand that there's ways to beat Wilder. See, I think that I think the Wilder detractors think that people that's like value Wilder as a heavyweight and think that he's a credible top 5, top 3 heavyweight competitor in the world right now, that we think that he's indestructible. No, he's just a fucking one of the best hitters in heavyweight history. He is. But we are fully aware that he is absolutely flawed and one of the worst technical boxing champions of all time. Like, I don't think anyone's out there saying Wilder's the best thing ever. I don't think anyone's really out there that's credible saying Wilder's the best heavyweight boxer, like in that, connotation, in terms of technique. No, he might be the number one heavyweight in the world just because he's knocking out everyone. But yeah, he can be outboxed by all these guys. I don't think anyone is really overstating Wilder's ability. I think, if anything, with the Luis Ortiz fight, we are 100% accurate now in our assertion of Wilder. If you can make it the 12 rounds, you can absolutely beat him via decision. It's not hard at all. You just have to stay off the canvas enough times. Right? Like, that's all it is. So I don't think anyone is really overstating or overhyping Wilder, to be honest. I think we're accurately hyping Wilder. We're accurately stating his ability. I don't see talks about Wilder being TBE. I don't even see talks about Wilder really being like Hall of Fame even. Like, think about fuck. I think it was with Rob and Gary and our group chat. I was like, is AJ Hall of Fame? Right? I was throwing out a random question in the chat, right? Does AJ have a claim to being Hall of Fame already? And I was thinking just from a pure impact perspective in the UK market. I mean, how can you deny he's a Hall of Fame fighter? But no one's really having that question about Wilder, right? Like, no one's really saying Wilder, Hall of Fame fighter. I don't see that. So I think people are very accurately stating how good Wilder is, what his limitations are, what his flaws are, because there are many of them. But the power is his saving grace. It's clearly got him out of so many fights. PSK saying, was about to say, name redacted do have some interesting claims re Wilder and his greatness in history. Again, PSK, I say credible.
I want smoke.
I mean, I was very specific, PSK. I said there's no one credible out there saying that shit. You might have some fanboys, because you're always going to have fanboys saying this, that, and this, but I don't see any push by people that I know and follow. I don't see any push by media that, like, Wilder's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't see that. Don't see that at all. Leonard saying, I see people putting Wilder in their pound-for-pound list. I mean, fine. I see people putting AJ in their pound-for-pound list. I mean, that's fine. Who cares? He's number 10 on a fictional list of people across all these divisions that are never going to fight each other. Amazing. I mean, like, that means nothing to me. That means literally nothing to me. No one's putting him as number 1 pound for pound. No one is. We're going to talk about Crawford being number 1 pound for pound. That's being overhyped. But, I mean, y'all don't have that conversation. It's fine. It's fine. What else do we have here? Do we have any more questions and topics? That might be it, guys. That might be it if we have nothing else to talk about. I'll wait maybe a few minutes or something like that to see what else. I'll quickly run through maybe a couple topics while you guys drop any more questions you want. Clean up sort of the news that was last night or this morning. Brides Dorticos World Boxing Super Series Finals set March 21st in Riga, Latvia. Yay, I guess. Woohoo. Amazing. I'll say this. Brides Dorticos is a fight that, I mean, it's a great fight, but it's one that's been in a tournament that no one really asked for. And I mean, if we're being honest here, has been stunted time and time again in terms of momentum. Come on. But hey, it should be a fun fight. Amidas, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. If I'm mispronouncing, I apologize. How's Crawford being number one being, I want to think you say overhyped. It's not being hyped, it's overhyped. Well, his best win is still either Yuriorkis Gamboa or Jeff Horn. Maybe a Victor Postal. Those are his best wins. Okay. There are a lot of other guys that have beaten those people that we don't put on pound for pound list. Just being honest. Also, Crawford fought a historically weak lightweight division, a historically weak junior welterweight division, especially with the generation that preceded him, and on top of it, again, his best fight to date at 147 is Jeff Horn, who is, I mean, with time has not made that fight look any better. Let's be honest here. I think Crawford is absolutely a pound-for-pound talent, but pound-for-pound number one, what has he really done to prove that? I mean, become undisputed in a division that largely was untalented and not deep. I mean, he became undisputed against Julius Ndongo, and I like Ndongo. You know, everyone that has listened to me for years knows I like Ndongo. He's a good fighter. But he's also a guy whose best win is Ricky Burns, a guy that Terence Crawford had beaten years ago. So, I it's not that I don't. It's not that I don't rate Crawford. It's not that I don't value Crawford. It's not that I don't think he's talented or that he's not pound for pound number one potential. But he hasn't really proven that, in my opinion. And I mean, come on, he's been struggling at 147. For being completely honest, just saying.
I want smoke.
Just saying. What else? I saw another one here. PSK any question: which active fighter has the best resume in boxing? Pacquiao's obviously still active, so Pacquiao's probably going to be 1 or 2 on that list. Canelo's getting very high on that list, if we're being completely honest. Who else? Who else would be high? AJ to a degree. I think AJ has a great resume. I think the lack of excitement in his last few fights is definitely not an issue when you look at his level of competition, to be honest. Who else really? I mean, Triple G to a degree, but not really, in my opinion. I think Estrada / Rungies VI, they have great resumes in the low weight classes. I think Loma has a really good resume that gets a lot of shit on, but I think he has a really good resume. I think Josh Taylor has a great resume. But probably speaking, if I have to pick 1 or 2, it's either Pacquiao or Canelo. And I probably have to lean Pacquiao because, I mean, A, he's active, still beating top 5 welterweights and champions. And on top of that, he has the 20, 30 years of boxing under his belt that is amazing and Hall of Fame worthy under him, right? So I feel like Pacquiao gets in automatically, but maybe Canelo sneaks in there too because Canelo going up and beating Kovalev. That is something special, especially since Kovalev beat a really talented, undefeated prospect in Yard, and the fight before that had his career best performance against Edelio Alvarez in the rematch. So it's tough. It's tough. I mean, those are the people I would probably pick, to be honest. Leonard saying, why are they having the Wilder Fury press conference in LA, not Vegas? Is there a reason? Yes, because all the media that will go to Vegas for the fight live in LA. That's why. And it's a Monday, so work day, stuff like that. You're thinking, get the LA media there for Monday, get them off work, whatever it may be. To travel to Vegas would be harder. They're going to travel to Vegas for the fight, but that's the reason why. Leonard. Like, all the media that goes to Vegas for fights just drive from LA. It's a 4-hour drive. You know, all the people I see in LA events are the same ones I see in Vegas events, except for a few people. What else do we have here? I think that's going to be it for today, guys. I don't see anything else. Oh, question. There we go. What would be your dream World Boxing Super Series tournament in terms of weight division? Who would be the 8 competitors? Who would 8 competitors be? Someone mentioned lightweight. That would be a really good one. Lightweight, welterweight, heavyweight, middleweight, even like junior middleweight. I think junior middleweight, amazing division. That'd be fun. 115, super flyweight would be fantastic too. And I think you guys can probably, PSK, you would know the top 8 guys are probably picking all those weight classes, but fuck, I'll go through it. Why not? I've only been on for an hour. I have nothing else to do. I do have like a bunch of stuff to do, but I'm procrastinating with the show. Let's get to heavyweight. Let's see what we got here. Let's go to BoxRec, guys. Faithful BoxRec. Let's see what we got here. Obviously, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Usyk, Tyson Fury, Andy Ruiz, Dylan White, Povetkin, maybe, Pulev, maybe, Ortiz, maybe. So we go AJ Wilder, Usyk, Tyson Fury, 4, Ruiz 5, Dylan White 6. So we need 2 more. Oh, this is tough. This is tough. Let me pull an audible here because he's not ranked because of, I think, the suspension. Gerald Big Baby Miller as my number 7. And then probably Luis Ortiz. If not Luis Ortiz, then maybe like Wanaki or Joseph Parker, maybe. Those would sort of be the alternates, so to speak. Pulev, Povetkin too. That's who definitely I would probably pick for my heavyweight. Let's go to, where else should we go? Let's go to middleweight. Middleweight is fantastic. Canelo, Triple G. The fuck? How is Chris Eubank ranked so high at BoxRec? Makes no sense to me. He is not in my top 8. Let's just stop. No, he's not there. So Alvarez, Triple G, Charlo, Andrade, Murata, for sure. Brandt. We need 2 more. Derevchenko. Fuck. Eubank. No. Matt Korboff. There you go. That's my 8. Eubank could be an alternate with Jeff fucking Horn and Liam Williams. I'm good with that. Welterweight. Oh God, all these, by the way, would just be fantastic. Oh, actually, I want to go to super welterweight first because that would be a hardcores tournament, but goddamn, that'd be fantastic. Munguia is no longer in the division, so we got Charlo, Laura, Williams, Hurd, Castano, for sure, Teixeira, Lubin, and Harrison. Oh my God. Imagine those 8 in a tournament together. That might be the best one. In terms of like entertainment value, that might be the best tournament we could get, to be honest. Welterweight. Crawford, Spence, Pacquiao, Porter, Garcia, Thurman. Crawford, Spence, Pacquiao, Porter, Garcia, Thurman. Let's go Lipinets and Mikey Garcia, just to give him some shine, right? I think that'd be fantastic. Then lightweight, probably the last one I do. Lomachenko, Lopez, Davis, Haney, Campbell, Comey. Bartholomew, Lee Selby, with like Ryan Garcia as an alternate. That's what I would do. All that'd be fantastic. Let's be honest. That'd be. Oh my God, that'd be. If we had all those tournaments, guys, in 2020, boxing would be in such a healthy place. It would be. We just. Never going to happen. Question, no Billy Joe Saunders in the 160 Roblox Super Series Dream Tournament? Oh, you can throw him in there too. I forgot about him. He's looking pretty heavy at 168 for being honest. Scott Brown saying Haney versus Ryan Garcia. Haney wins for sure right now, but Ryan Garcia, he's looking good. He's improving drastically, and plus, I mean, being in Eddie Ernesto and Canelo's camp long term, doing wonders for his game. It really will, and it is already, in my opinion. But guys, we have here. Quickly, shout out to everyone in the chat for joining me on this show. Scott Brown, Pug Ill, not important. It says somewhere like a lot of our shows in the new year have been really good. Thank you for that. Always love the praise. PSK, Amadis, Leonard. I said Scott, I believe, right? Aaron Munoz, Heavy D, Chad, Heath Farley. Who else? UK Rob. Yeah, that guy. Hassan, Ryan, Art Alexander, SSB, Pat in Beantown. Who else do we have here that joined us today? That's about it for you, everyone that joined us in the chat. Thank you, guys. Oh, hold on. Before I run out here, Rob's mentioning it. I'll address it really fast. Luis Neri, because we're talking about Eddie Ernesto. Luis Neri, by the way, expected to train with Eddie Ernesto moving forward. Also, Kell Brook is wanting Williams, Charlo, Teixeira, all of them. Sure, man. Sure. Whatever you say there, buddy. But, guys, that's going to be it for the show. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And also, the last few shows we've done, all of them are almost at 1,000 views each. So please go back and share those shows, hit the like button, all that stuff. Push those shows. I want them all to hit 1,000 views each. That'd be awesome for the channel. Thank you all for listening, supporting us. Also, remember, patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. Link is down below in the description. If you want to help support the channel in any financial way, $1 a month is all we're asking. $12 a year, it's way less than your DAZN subscription. You guys have a great day, evening, night, wherever you are. I'm not going to do a reaction show tonight. It's Sister's birthday tonight, so I'm going to go out drinking. God help me, because I hate drinking. And tomorrow, reaction show for Munguia card and Hart Smith, though. So you should get a reaction show tomorrow night. You guys have a good one. Peace.
I'm very Phil.
Just send me location.
You disrespect boxing, you piece of shit?
No, don't be scared, homie.
That's fucking illegal.
You know, they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
It's bullshit.
I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
Stay off the weed.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?